Welcome to One on One. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper, and today we have one of my favorite people in all of Salisbury, Dr. Donna Hanlin. Welcome, Dr. Hanlin.
Good morning.
So it's been over 6 months that you've been in this job. You've walked around the room, you've looked at stuff, and now you've got some ideas for what goals you want to set, and you want to talk about that. So let's dive into this. Your thing called Achieve, exclamation point, 1.0. I put this in a headline yesterday. It looked really awkward with the exclamation point, but it's very exciting, so tell me about it.
Well, this concept actually originated when I was interviewing for the position. And I talked to the board about my desire to be open and transparent with the community and communicate with the public about what it is we're all about as a public school system. And so I put this together as part of the interview process with that this is my plan, telling them that while it's very there's a lot of holes in it at that point because I didn't already know what I wanted to do, but I did know I wanted to come in and do a lot of listening and learning from the community about their aspirations for the public school system. And I told them that this Achieve 1.0 will evolve into a report to the community, and that's what this is. After just over 6 months in the position, I now have spent this report describes 3 phases. It describes the listening and learning phase, which was from even before July 1, because as you know, I was appointed just about a year ago.
Right.
And so the first phase was listening and learning, being out in the community, being in the schools, finding out about what's happening in the school system and what do people want from a public school system. That evolved into my vision points that were developed in collaboration with the board, and those vision points then have evolved into phase 3, which is leading, which is what are the major initiatives that I believe we need to look at moving forward in this first year as we move into the second year, believe it or not.
We always talk about education and curriculum learning, but safety has been a big part of what you want to work on. Talk about that.
Okay. So part of my listening and learning phase, I did hear a lot about what people perceived as the current status. Again, some of it was perception, some of it was reality, that we needed to make sure that our schools were safe and that the community felt secure in parents felt secure in sending their students to our schools. And I believe our schools are safe. And but we are taking a look at our code of conduct to begin with. I think my second vision point also actually talks about a balance between making sure that we have an appropriate code of conduct and that students clearly understand what our expectations are and that we then enforce those expectations, balanced with making sure that we are building relationships with students so they know we believe in them. And that's what that second vision point is.
Right.
So then that evolved into one of the major initiatives that we did just before the holiday was a system-wide climate survey where we asked for feedback from not only students, but parents and staff about what's the current status of climate in our schools. And we have received those data back, and schools are currently digging into that information to determine what are the kinds of strategies that we want to put in place to make sure that our schools are safe and secure and have positive learning climate.
How's the system, how have you perceived the system since you came back? Is it about what you thought it was going to be, or are there some surprises?
There really aren't any surprises.
Pretty typical?
I think it's pretty typical. Yeah, it's pretty typical. There are There are great things happening in our school system. One of the things that I learned a lot about and heard often about, again, in that first phase, was that we're doing great things, and that's not always what the public hears, as much as we try to put out the good news about the things that are happening. So again, actually two of my vision points touch on that whole area about communicating the good news and just the whole culture of our school system, not just in our schools, but the perception of our school system as a whole, and that we want to make sure that people know that the whole basis of our school system is a foundation of trust and transparency and openness and telling our good story. And then my last vision point is actually what I call it a vision point, but it's my ultimate goal, that in the end, there is probably no end, but
Right.
but ultimately, we ensure that our community believes in us, and that we'll know that. And I've talked about this before, so we may have actually talked about it before, but I believe it sincerely that when I hear that teachers are competing to work here, and that families and businesses are that's their goal to move here because of this amazing community and amazing school system that we have, I will know that the community believes in us as a school system. And I believe that they do, but I also believe that we have to work harder at getting the good news out and the positive things that are happening in our school system.
Right. You're the first superintendent that I've heard say directly that people make a decision about where they're going to live based on the quality of schools. We
It's
all
so
know that,
true.
but superintendents have never wanted to say that before. So if you're thinking about moving to the Lower Shore, you might want to move to Worcester County because the reputation of spending money on things is higher. It's a smaller school system and that kind of thing. But this is obviously something important to you, that you want this to be the school system.
It's very important. I think it's critically important to the community as a whole. Interestingly enough, I was with a good friend of mine this weekend who lives in the Anne Arundel community, Anne Arundel County, and she was talking about this one particular set of schools that was so good. And I said to her, "How do you know that? What tells you?" She said, "That's a great question. It's because people say it is."
Yeah.
So there's so much power in communication and in I'll use the word marketing, but it's getting that good word out over and over again because we have such amazing things happening in our school system.
Yeah, it's interesting. My daughter plays lacrosse, so I'm with other parents, in the stadium, and I end up sitting with the visitors a lot. And it's interesting, the ones who supposedly have great school systems, when they come to Salisbury and they sit there and they look at our facilities and they look at our kids and our athletes, they're so envious and they're a little nervous because they're coming to Salisbury, they're coming to the big town.
Right.
And we hear about how great their systems are, but I think they're a little bit jealous of us in a lot of ways. And it just says a lot about what we have here and we don't even realize it.
It does. It does. It's very true.
It must be hard in an era of social networking too, to keep message. This sort of the incident at Bennett in the office. People have said to me, "You need to tell the whole story." Well, I've told the whole story. There's nothing left to tell. It was one of those things that was ugly, but it was handled so very well.
It really was.
And everyone agrees that it was handled correctly, and all the decision has been made correctly after that. And there's even, I heard, that a chance of perhaps rewarding some of the students who stepped in and helped, which I've never heard of before.
Yes, that idea actually came from Mike Dunn, the president and CEO of the Greater Salisbury Committee, who came to me and said, "I'm hearing this story about this, the behavior of a couple students that came and did the right thing."
And that's part of the story I have not covered. So yes, that needs to get out.
And we want to do that. We're working with Mike and Greater Salisbury to recognize those students and in a big way. So we'll make sure that you're part of that.
What's it like for you when that kind of thing happens and you get that call?
The
Like
the
something
crisis
just happened?
call? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I remain calm. It's it's not something that I want to hear is happening in our schools, especially when it involves a serious situation. I have to remain calm. I have to know that, okay, this is something that we need to pull our resources together and handle in a very efficient, calm way, because it's important that we get accurate information out to our community and that we support the school in resolving the issue. And so we actually have a protocol in place where senior staff gather in my office. We are on a speakerphone with Andy Turner, who is our coordinator of Safe Schools, and the principal is there. So we are all in collaboration around that issue, making sure that we are supporting the school in, again, not only resolving the issue, making sure that the students involved are first of all safe, but that they are appropriately disciplined if that's warranted,
Right.
and that we get accurate information out. And our public information liaison, Tracy Saylor, is very good. She's working with us. She's either on site or with us in my office, making sure that that we're communicating as quickly and as accurately as we can. Sometimes it's not quick enough for parents, but we do it as quickly as we can after ensuring that, first of all, safety comes first.
And you want the
and
answers.
And we want to make sure
Right,
that
you
we're
wanna be
getting
able to tell the
accurate
truth.
information out.
Yeah.
Yes.
In those situations where there's a lockdown or whatever levels of lockdown there are,
Right.
there's all kinds of stuff out there about what it is,
Sure,
but we want you to
sure,
tell us
yeah.
what's really,
Right.
but you don't always know because it's usually a police action, something not even related to the school.
Right, and we're, again, that I didn't mention that part of it. Miss Andy Turner works very closely with the sheriff's office, and our school resource officers are very much a part. We have a great relationship with our sheriff's office, and so they're very much a part of that, the management of whatever that situation is, and communicating openly with us.
I feel like I'm distracting you about what's going on in the
okay.
classroom.
That's
but
okay.
How are things in the classroom?
Things in the classroom are good. I am a big proponent of innovation and risk-taking by our educators. And I've spoken about that since I've been here. And I'm true to my word that I'm moving forward with making sure that our teachers and our administrators know that they are free to take risks. Test scores are important, but that's the result of what we do. It
Right.
shouldn't drive our work. Our work should be driven by what we believe is best for students. So one of my vision points is all about innovative instruction, engaging students in their learning, making sure that they have opportunities to explore their passions. And so that turned into a major initiative, which is, again, described in this report, not in detail, but probably January. It was mid-January. I brought together about 50 people. We held it at the Greater Salisbury Committee, where we brought together employees of the system who would be involved, but also stakeholders in the community who may have some knowledge or interest in instruction, and making sure that we are preparing our students for the 21st century. I know that sounds cliche,
Yeah.
but it is so very important that we have a digital learning plan, that it's not about making sure that every student has a laptop in their hands. That's comes later in this digital learning plan, because we have to make sure we know what it is we want students to do with that technology. So that's just the beginning of, we are now internally right now working through, okay, what did we learn from that day of looking at a digital learning, visioning in terms of digital learning, and where do we go from there? And I actually have a meeting later today to talk to a few key people who were internal people at this point, who were part of that day, and looking at how do we get this into the hands, how do we get this initiative into the hands of our teachers and our principals, because they are who need to drive this. Part of my report, in fact, my report starts with what are my core values as an educator. And one of them is, and I've said it repeatedly, is that I believe that teachers and principals are the most important resource that we have in our school system. And we have to empower them to do the things that they not only have the expertise to do, but they have the passion for doing. And so I'm really excited about how this is going to play out. where we actually come together and create this plan for digital learning, where it may end up looking somewhat like a framework for what, how do we know when we've achieved this? And I know I'm speaking in very general terms, but again, a lot of the work that comes with this whole plan for personalizing learning for students in the classroom, how does it come to fruition?
I
We're
love
working on
that
that.
teachers can be creative. I mean, the best teachers I ever had were the ones that were allowed to show their passion.
Yes.
And I remember vividly, I had one teacher who was a little nutty in terms of showing her passion. And the supervisor came in one day to watch. And she just gave a lecture and we took notes, and then the supervisor was gone and it was back to having fun and really learning again.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So
And
it's like the
that is
system was
such
holding her back.
It is such a great example.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because and I don't know when that was, how long ago that was.
50, 60 years ago, but yes.
But I think that especially in the era of No Child Left Behind and
Yeah.
Race to the Top, and where we've been so focused on the accountability measures that we've forgotten the importance of innovation and risk-taking and being a little crazy in the classroom, engaging students in learning. You remember that teacher because of that.
My math teacher, I had a problem getting my homework done. So he just set a policy that I was going to do the first homework problem on the board every day. So I knew I was going to be in front of everyone doing the first problem, the easiest problem, but I better have my homework done. It was little stuff like that.
Sure.
My son, I remember how proud he was when Principal Grudas called him by name one day. The principal knew his name. That meant everything to him.
It's so
there's
important.
just stuff like that.
It is so important that we take time to build relationships with students, that they know we believe in their potential.
Test scores. Last 20 years, we've done nothing but talk about test scores all the time.
Right.
I don't hear the discussion on test scores as much. What's happened with that?
Well, I think there are probably places where that conversation continues, and
Like the MSPAP, everyone was teaching to that, and they'd be sweating out the MSPAP every year.
MSPAP actually was not a bad assessment. It was extremely challenging to set up that kind of assessment because it was very hands-on. But I agree with you that there has been a lot of conversation over the years about assessment, and we are held accountable for our PARCC scores, which are aligned with Maryland's college and career standards. So we do obviously look at those scores. We use those scores to determine what it is that students need in our school system, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. We did improve on our PARCC scores this year. We have a lot of room to grow. And I believe that all of the things that I've been talking about, where we really look at what's important in terms of engaging students in instruction in very creative ways, I think the rise in test scores will come as a result of that. To me, it's not about, okay, what do we do today because this is the next item in the scope and sequence that's aligned with the standards. We need to ensure that we're covering what it is, the material, the curriculum that we believe that students need to know and be able to do. But I think we can do that in very creative ways, and having lots and lots of conversations with assistant superintendents and directors and supervisors about that. And hopefully through this digital learning plan, that will play out in the classroom over time.
You mentioned assistant superintendents. You're losing both of yours. Is this a good thing? Is it a chance to grow, or?
Well, I try to look at it that way because it's going to be very challenging.
And they both tell me it's no reflection on you or anything like that. It's
I appreciate that.
Where their lives are and all
I've
that.
had tremendous years with both Dr. Handy Margot and Kathy, Dr. Townsend. We worked together for years when I was here in the school system before, and have tremendous respect for both of them. But I knew coming in that they are both at...
they were right at that age.
They are right at the age, and I appreciate the fact that they gave me a year.
Yeah.
That they gave me a year to learn from them and gain an understanding of the historical perspective of the 12 years that I've been gone. But I respect and I'm excited for them. I retired once.
Right.
And,
Just
and
didn't
you know,
stick.
it didn't stick. And who knows what will happen for both Margot and Kathy, but I'm
Right.
excited for them that they have this opportunity to, step back and look at what's important to them.
Is this the kind of thing where there's a succession plan, or do you look outside, or how does this work?
Both of those positions are now posted, and it
Okay.
is two of my three assistant superintendents.
Right.
Mrs. Miles, Kim
Kim Miles
Miles,
being the third.
is the third, and
Yeah.
she's with me for a while, hopefully.
And she's instruction?
She is student and family services.
Okay, right.
Dr. Handy,
Handy
was
was instruction,
instruction,
right.
and Kathy was administrative services. But I've posted for both of those positions, both internally and externally, and we'll be going through that process over the course of the next couple of months, looking for strong leaders who can move us forward into the future based upon the work that we've been doing this year.
Yeah, it's not like I know anything, but in terms of the people I deal with, it seems like there's a strong bench there.
We have a lot of strength in our school system. That's
Like good principals.
good principals, good administrative staff, and just good staff all around. That was one of the things that has impressed me since I've returned, the talent that we have in our school system and the willingness to think outside the box, given the opportunity to do it, to think creatively. I haven't had anyone say to me, "We can't do that. We've never done that this way." I haven't had anyone say that to me, which is very encouraging. Now, I don't know what they're saying when I'm not around, but I'm just going to keep pushing for thinking creatively and doing what's best for students.
There's a budget about to be unveiled. How is that looking?
It's looking, it's looking, I think that we have, and the board will look at the budget. We've been looking at the budget through work sessions, but the board will approve our budget to move forward to the county. They'll approve that next week at our March board meeting. And I think we've developed that budget based upon these vision points. Everything to me needs to be systemic and strategic.
Excellent.
And so I have in that budget a marketing position, a person who's going to, we need more than one person in that area. I have in that position additional teachers to make sure that we're keeping class size low, looking at intervention teachers. We're asking the county for maintenance of effort, and then we have some other one-time funding requests that we think are important to instruction, including technology. So I'm hopeful that the budget will move forward and will be approved and funded as requested. I think I have a very positive feeling in the community now that, and I'm not at all indicating it wasn't here before, but I feel tremendous support for what we're doing. And I think that's why, to me, this report is so important, because it shows not only the community, but the leaders in the community, the county council, the county executive, that we have a plan based upon research about what's important for students to be successful.
Yeah, I think the plan helps a lot, because those county council members don't necessarily understand what's going on, and this helps them understand that and make the connections between the numbers.
Right.
Because they're just going to see 5% and freak out, or whatever the number would be. They don't understand what it means to the actual work that goes on. And that's not to be critical of them, but that's the history. I mean,
that is, and just the nature of how we do business.
Yeah.
But I think it's very important that we work to educate them on what it is that's important to us. For example, we're going to be inviting them to come to a classroom demonstration to see, well, how exactly does this technology, how could it work in our classrooms? I think it's important for them to know that before they make decisions about funding.
It's funny. My daughter and I had a fight about something she found on the internet about how all these things in society have changed in the last 30 years, but the school classroom is still the exact same way as it was in the beginning. I'm fine with that, because there's basic things that you need to learn, and you don't need a lot of fancy stuff. I sound like an old man. You don't need a lot of fancy stuff to learn basic things. But you're right, there's so many opportunities with technology that we need to give kids.
We really do have to, and we spend a lot of time talking about what is it that employers are looking for today. And some of those top characteristics that employers are looking for are creativity, collaboration, the ability to problem solve with authentic problems. So it's not just textbook anymore.
All right, I have to ask, and I'm sorry, but I'm sitting there at my favorite event of the year, Rock and Roll Revival, just amazed by all these kids at Bennett and what they're able to achieve and just how talented they are. And all of a sudden, there's my superintendent on the stage belting out a song. How did this happen?
Well, Rock and Roll Revival actually started when I was principal at Bennett, and it was such a great event, and I participated then.
You've got Susan Burnell there and Dory Heyman. I mean, it was just like, okay.
It was an incredible event. This year, the Worsons who have directed this event for 16 years, a long time. They came in as directors. They weren't the first directors, but they came in after 3 or 4 years, right before I left Bennett as principal. And they approached me. I ran into them in the grocery store, probably. I wasn't expecting it. That's, when you're not expecting it, it's kind of hard to say no. But no, I was very happy to do it this year. It was their last year as directors.
What's the reaction been?
It's been positive, very positive. And I did a number with Susan, as you said, and the other backup singers that I had done before. So it wasn't as challenging because it came back to me quickly, and I thought it was appropriate. Ain't no mountain high enough.
Right. Well, I was amazed, but someone did cynically say that it was an easy song to sing, and she had good accompaniment, and I was like,
and that's so true. Oh, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Singing is not one of my talents, and most of what I did was talking. So in the song.
How many shows is that?
7.
So it's a big commitment.
It's a huge commitment.
Plus they rehearse for months.
Right. They were wonderful with us to schedule our rehearsals where we could come in, rehearse, and leave. And so and for most of the shows, when I did it before, we were part of the opening act and part of the closing act. We didn't do that this time.
Right.
We just did our act. But it was wonderful being around the students. And I have continued to support that show, supported it initially and continued to support it because I truly believe that that's a perfect example of where learning happens. That's not just what we call extracurricular. That they learn so much about problem solving and collaborating with one another and working through issues together, taking risks on the stage, out of their comfort zone, and it's just great watching them, and the talent is incredible.
When people say our schools are in the wrong direction, I'm like, just go and watch this thing, and you'll realize
so true.
We have so much to be proud of.
So
we really
true.
do.
We do.
Well, she's Dr. Donna Hanlin. She's got a new set of plans for everyone to read. It's on the the website.
It is on our website.
And it's called Achieve.
It's called Achieve!
Exclamation point.
Right, because we're going to do that.
1.0. And 1.0 means there's going to be a 1.1?
There's going to be a 2.0. There's going to be a 2.0. Yes, it's not going to be long before July 1 rolls around, and so I'm actually beginning to think about what would 2.0 look like. And obviously, it will be a continuation because this is just the beginning. This is just a beginning. So I hope that the community will take a look at it, and we're going to have it out in different locations throughout the community, hard copies, but they're probably the best way to find it is to go to our website and take a look at it.
That's a good website. It's good.
Great. Thank you.
Dr. Donna Hanlin, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Greg.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.